All right. Hello, everyone. This is Josh, also known as Yashu. You're just tuning into episode 88 of the TLOY Talks podcast. We're almost to the 90th episode, like in a bit too, but, keep on checking with the episodes, keep on tapping into, and, we're happy to have you on to check it out for the rest, for like the 88th, 89th, the 90th to the 100th and all that too. And, you'll definitely get this on all platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Buzzsprout, and much more. And, we're just going to get it started right here and all that. So, a rapper, artist, fashion designer, engineer, like coming straight from Toronto, like by ways of like the GT and all that, has performed at a lot of events, opened up for NASCAR Allo, is a part of like the social outcast scene and all that too, has worked with the legs of the Toronto underground music industry with animation, Siah Hendrix, Kato, much more and all that. And we have Toxic on the pod, like how are you doing today, man?
Good. What's up, bro? It's good to be here, man. Just want to say, thank you for reaching out and bringing me on here. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here,
Yeah,
and I'm super grateful. You guys have a really sick studio. I'm super stoked that you remembered me and decided to have me on as a guest.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think the first time it was the NASCAR Allo thing too, and I was actually doing like a vlog for the platform, like with the lens of Yashu and all that, and basically we covered like everyone like around and all that too, from like performances, and then I think you were like the first person, like I think on the camera, like for a bit too, and like I think we talked about like you like eating a taco and all that, and like all that other type of stuff too.
Yeah,
Yeah, so like that was
yeah,
like a dope moment, and then
yeah.
just seeing all your other stuff too with your music and all that, and like even with like some of like the projects that you're gonna do too. So you have like an upcoming project called like All Night Rage. I think you talked about it on another podcast too and all that. So I don't know if that's gonna be like dropping sometime soon and all that, or
Yeah. So I'm gonna do that one, sort of split it up as singles, all the singles that I have, because I think today's day and age, like singles is better. So like the first song that I'm dropping that was from that project is called Rico and Step. It's gonna drop next month. But I do have a mixtape I've been sitting on for a couple, like a year, like maybe like 2 years, called Love and Other Drugs. So I'm just kind of building up singles, and then I'm gonna sort of build up to that project. Yeah,
and then
yeah.
when people think about like the whole like Toronto like underground scene too for a bit too, like some people like they'll have like their guesses with Kate with Kato's and all that, with like 10K Moss, like Wavy Jackson, all that too, with like Virgo Parks, Aiden, like Sierra and all that too. But
Mhm.
like most people don't like see like other scenes like that too. So like your scene, which is like kind of like unique with the emo like SoundCloud stuff and all that, with you,
Mhm.
Kato, Cy Hendrix, animation and all that too, Zargo, like it is like very like interesting to see and all that too, and like we'll definitely like speak more on that like later on as well too. So
Yeah, dope. Yeah, I think I've been growing a lot of different ways with my sound. I've also also dived more into like alternative rock recently, especially into like I have like a track in my vault where I tried out like some like vocal fry and like scream, but I also have like some like party sort of stuff. So just sort of depends like what I'm feeling, and like obviously for the summer I'm gonna be putting out like more like party tracks because it's like summertime, and then
true,
as
true,
we go into
yeah.
like the colder weather, I'll have more of the sort of emotional, hard-hitting songs,
Nah,
yeah.
for sure, man. Just to like kind of like get it like started right here. So you grew up in Brampton, and which ends do you like kind of grow up there, and like what was like the environment like for you growing up there?
So I grew up, right at Heart Lake and Sandalwood, and I went to Esker Lake Public School, then I went to RHL, Robert H. Lagerquest, and then I went to Mayfield Secondary School for the dramatic arts program, so I did, like a little bit of acting school. That's kinda where I got introduced to, like, performing and being on stage and all that kinda stuff, and just being in, like, a artsy sort of environment, and then I went to, Fanshawe College, music industry arts, yeah.
Oh, nice. And I mean Brampton, like they have like a lot of like interesting acts there too. Alicia Cara and all that, Roy Woods,
There's a lot of
Toylands and all
Brampton,
that,
yeah.
Spitty. Like a lot of people like I think Brampton like and also like Mississauga, like I think they're more known with like musicians like today than like anywhere else and all that too. But like even growing up, was it like big for music at that time growing up? Like
Yeah, like, in terms of music, especially in that, like, 2015, 2016 sorta era, that's when, like, the music scene really started popping off. I'm pretty sure that's when, like, Roy Woods dropped around Drama with Drake around that time. So yeah, the scene was pretty poppin' there. There was him, who else? There's, like, Wonder Girl, she was, like, a bit before that sorta area or, era. So there's a lot of, Brampton sorta talent, even, like, people that I run into now, like, at the studio that I work at, 777. always
Nice.
running into Brampton people there. So a lot of good stuff in Brampton. Yeah.
Yeah, man. And like even like growing up, so like what were you like from like the start until now and all that? Like I don't know if you started like the like emo, like,
Mhm.
goth phase like at a certain point like in your life too, or was this like kind of just happened like, when the music started and all that?
So I was always into like rock music. I started playing guitar when I was like 10 years old. I took guitar lessons at Long and McQuaid. So I was always into like guitar. Like there's like videos of me on like my Facebook from when I was like 11, 12 years old of me just rocking out on the guitar. And then I played at like school talent shows and stuff like that. Like I remember in grade 8 at the talent show I played guitar. I played Holiday by Green Day, Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana. So I was always like into music and sort of rock and especially in the skate scene. Like I skated super heavy growing up. So like even now, like I'm wearing like DC shoes that I sort of like studded up and made it sort of interesting. So yeah, definitely was always sort of into like the alternative rock, like skateboard, all that kind of like
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Have you ever like played like even like some of the video games too, like Tony Hawk Underground and all that to the American Wasteland type stuff as well too?
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, Skate 3 is the best skate game ever. Like the Skate series is I'm super excited for Skate 4. That's the only reason I'll buy a PS5. You know what I mean? But yeah, the Skate series is definitely like my favorite. I still play Skate 3 to this day on my PS3, like, you know?
Sure. Yeah, because I know like for me, like I was like more into like Tony Hawk and all that too. Like I
Yeah.
think like just the whole storyline, that culture and all that too, because it
Yeah.
actually showed like a lot of like the skaters like from that era, from the pro skater like 1 to 4 era to like, Fug and like Fug 2 and all that, and like even like American like Wasteland and Project 8 and all that too. But yeah, I mean like as far as like even like the music too, because like pop punk, emo, all that type of stuff like was like generated like around
Yeah.
like late 90s, early 2000s. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I was super in like when I was growing up, like in like grade 10 and stuff, like I like idolized Blink 182 and I wanted to be like in a band so badly. And I knew like most of their songs, how to play and stuff like that. So that was a huge influence for me starting. Definitely like yeah, pop punk. I was super into that. And then I think in the like 2010s, like early 2010s, there was that like pop punk like revival thing with bands like The Story So Far, Neck Deep, and all that kind of stuff that I was really, really into, like Vans Warped Tour and stuff like that, like, yeah, all that kinda stuff.
Yeah, nah, for sure. Like, yeah, that was like totally like an era too, and all that. I mean, even like everyone was like listening to like a lot of like emo music back then, like back
Mhm.
in like high school and all that, with boys like boys and all that. Like, I think what Metro Station,
Yeah, like Shake It,
like
yeah.
and then even what like Animal like Ant Farm and all that too. Like that was like kind of
Yeah.
like a crazy vibe too. So
Yeah, yeah. Even like I was like always into like I guess like radio rock, like 3 Days Grace, like they're from like I think Peterborough or something like that. So even like
yeah,
some of the heavier stuff like that, and then like getting even heavier like bands, like one of my favorite bands to this day is Bring Me the Horizon. So I
yeah,
still get to pull a lot of influence from them. I think their new music is really, really dope. It pushes a lot of sound boundaries. You listen to, you're like, what am I even listening to right now?
nah,
But
for
yeah, it's
sure.
super sick and inspiring for
Yeah, for
sure.
sure. Nah, for sure. And I know you said like, like you played like the guitar for a bit too from like high school and like middle school and elementary and all that too. But how did you like get into like rapping and like, engineering in that sense too?
So, rapping, literally, I started in like grade like 11, 12. It just started with just smoking weed and freestyling with my friends. It was just really fun. And then like I turned out to be pretty decent at it. It's funny, the music that you hear now, like I started off like rapping, like you know what I mean? So I started off like 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 all that kind of stuff. So then I wanted to record a song, so a couple buddies that I knew, like he took me to his crib and we recorded this track. Like it was called Spaced Out, and it was just like this, like like white boy smoke weed rapper anthem. And then me and my friend, we played at our school's like Battle of the Bands, and then we were like swearing and stuff like that. And the principal came out on stage and she was trying to get us off, and then we had the whole like because we were at a performance school, so we had a whole like auditorium, so then everyone just started chanting our like my name and all that kind of stuff. And then I performed that song. We were supposed to have another song, but they cut us off early. But that moment, I was kind of like, yeah, like fuck school, fuck all this shit. Like I really want to just kind of lean into this because this is like where I sort of get my like desire, and like it just like what's the word, like serves the itch or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like like it helps like with purpose like in a way too and all that. Yeah, no, I know what you mean, man. And I think like that like kind of helps like people like within their start, like within music and all that too, or like even like their growth into like what they want to become and all that, because they see like the environment around them, or they see like what they want to do, and like they want to change like that aspect like in their life and all that too. So I definitely see that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, man. And like for as far as like your musical background and like history and all that, I don't know if you had like any other like family or friends that kind of like made music before and all that.
So I remember like my uncle, like my mom's sister's husband, he had a drum kit and like he always played drums, like my uncle Steve. And then I would always like hop on his drum set when I was like 3 years old, just jamming out on his drums. So there's kind of like an early exposure to music. And I know like my uncle Mark, like also on like my mom's side, he always had like hella instruments, was really good with piano and all that kind of stuff. So but honestly, even like my best friend growing up, like he was like my next door neighbor and he was playing like started playing guitar and stuff. I'm like, "Oh, this is sick." So then I started playing guitar. He gave me his old guitar. We formed like a little garage band when we were like in the 6th grade. We were called like the So and So's, and we just like every Halloween we'd like just bring our stuff to my buddy's garage and we just start like jamming out for everyone and all that kind of stuff.
Ah,
Yeah, and we
nice.
kind of like all year like write songs and like have
Yeah.
practices that would build up to like our Halloween like music thing that happened on our street. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think I know like another band like that kind of did that. I don't know if you know like a band named Dear God that's like kind of like based like in Brampton and all that by any chance.
Oh, yeah, I'm pretty sure he went to Mayfield too, the guy, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, because I know like bands like, like Dear God and all that too. And like I think Cleopatra, which is also based in Toronto,
Mhm.
like started off like doing that and all that, and like Sophia side too. And it is like kind of interesting to see like from like the local like band that would like play like in the garage to them like even being in like different like venues like all over like at birthday parties or just like even like at small venues and all that too. So
Yeah, no, that's dope, like, our band never really made it past, like, just we were just kinda doing it for, like, fun, and then, like, in high school, like, grade 12 is when I started, like, doing music and, like, making songs and, like,
true.
writing and all that kinda stuff,
True.
like, personally for myself, yeah.
And what inspired you to even like become that and like even like take it like seriously, with rapping and like engineering and all that?
So like what inspired me to start music is it was definitely like a huge outlet for me. I was kind of like I went through a lot of just like I was just like a weird teenager. Like I would, like had like a lot of anxiety. I struggled with a lot of that kind of stuff. So I just kind of music was like a really good outlet for me. It always felt good creating something. I was never really good at like math or anything like that, but like the other stuff like English and like drama and like arts and creating, I was always like I always really thrived at. So music was definitely a good way for me to have an output and like even like I was like super into the Tyler the Creator and like the Odd Future era that happened like in the early 2010s. That also really inspired me to like start sort of like rapping and all that kind of stuff. So like that scene, and I loved how that scene was also mixed in with like the skater scene, and it kind of like it was like a bridge that like crossed all the way through like pop punk. So this like rap rock bridge, I was
Oh,
just like
nice.
super interested in. Yeah.
Nice, man. And I mean, as far as like, your influences and all that too, like I know you said like Tyler the Creator and all that, Blink 182 and like all like these other like bands and all that.
Mhm.
But in terms of like, the artists or genres that kind of influence like your sound and all that too, who would they be and like, who would you like to work with someday musically and all that?
I would love to work with Travis Barker. I think we could definitely cook up like a heater for sure. I think a lot of the stuff he does with like new up and coming artists would be really sick. That would just definitely be like a dream of mine for sure. And in terms of like inspiration, I get honestly like I might get heat for saying this, but like Kanye West, man, like he's super cool. Like every album he puts out, like is like sick. Like I remember like 2016, that was like the Life of Pablo and all that kind of stuff. And then he came out like Donda. I didn't really like Jesus is King. I don't know, that album was kind of like there's like a couple good songs, but like Donda was like honestly like amazing, and even like the new one Vultures is like just really good. It sounds like I'm listening to like music of the future, and as well as like how he's like an all around creative. He's a producer, all that kind of stuff, and like he makes clothes. Like I try to like do my thing with clothes and that. So it's
Yeah.
super inspiring
Yeah,
for
for sure.
sure.
And I want to talk about like the pieces
Yeah.
too for a bit too. So tell me like more what you have like right now with that.
So like these pants right here, like these are just like I just like so there's like a kind of like a story behind these pants. These are called like the full moon jeans. So like I was in just a really bad place, like financially, physically, mentally, all that kind of stuff. I didn't have money to like fix my laptop, so I couldn't like make designs and all that kind of stuff. So I just got some stencils and some spray paint and like like a thread and a needle, and
Yeah.
I bleached these and then made stencils and I spray painted. And the first pair, the reason they're called the full moon jeans is because the first pair that I actually made was on like outside on like a full moon in like a back alley.
Oh,
So it's
nice.
like literally like streetwear. Like I literally like make these in like alleyways and shit
Oh,
like that.
nice.
So it's like really inspiring, and it's very freeing, like, especially it feels very primal, like, the way that I cut and sew stuff, like, I cut up, like, this, like, Louis bag that I found, and I, like, stitched it on. It's just really punk and, like, grunge, like, I don't really I know it's not perfect, and that's kinda, like, the point of it, like, it's not
Yeah,
being perfect, just looking kinda shitty, but sick at the same time.
sure.
And,
And
this is, like, a design that I just made, like, the Frankenstein one. I just, like, upgraded it and got rid of, like, some of the black that's in the
true,
Frankenstein because 'cause I'm
true.
still
Yeah.
learning Photoshop, I just learned it, but you know what I mean? It's definitely, definitely
True.
something that I'm doing more of, and then the hat, me and my boy cooked these up, like, during, like, the Social Outcast sort of era and all that, and I always had, like, chains on the hats.
Nice.
Like, my first set of hats that I made, I actually, like, drilled through the cap, and I added grommets, and I had chains, like, from, like, hanging down like this, but
Nice.
these ones, the brim was so thick, so I tried drilling and it wasn't working, then we just said, "You know what, let's just put the chains, like, on the brim like that, and then add, like, the horns and the studs and all that kinda
Sure.
stuff."
And like usually like with some of the clothes too, like usually like if people like want to buy them, like do you do like the whole like drop shipping like process too, or do you do it like
So,
within?
in terms of, like, that, like, I still wanna, like, when I do that, I wanna, like, really go all in, like, have the photo shoot. So this is, like, stuff that I'm sorta testing out, stuff that I'll
Testing
sell
out.
at
Okay.
shows. If someone wants to hit me up, I'll make them, like, a custom pair of pants. So before I
Yeah.
turn into, like, the actual brand, I wanna have, like, the Photoshop skills, like, perfectly down. So right
Nice.
now, like, even for this design, I only got a couple shirts of these made to test it. I like, like, cause I watch a lot of videos on, like, how clothing brands fail, and one of them is, like, oh, their first design, let's spend all this money on like fucking 40 pieces, and then they end up no one likes it, and then you have all this stock. So it's all about testing, and then once I have, the product that's like perfected, then I can just start really pumping it out.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
For sure. No, it's kind of sick and all that too, just like with the styling and all that too.
Thanks,
So
yo.
yeah, man. And even get back more onto your style and all that. Like, how did you like get like your stage name and all that?
So back in grade 12, it was in like 2016. I used to be called like Keith because my because my government name and all that kind of stuff. So then I had this one track, it was, like, called, like, Toxic Thoughts. This is, like it's not you couldn't even, like, find it. It's just, like, an old track, and I just really like the word toxic, especially because my music was, like, such, like a, what do I say, like, a channel for me to, like, put that energy through. So I was like, "Yo, like, toxic." I would just literally just write it, like, everywhere. Like, I would, like, draw it, like, all over my notebooks and all that kinda stuff. I had, like, a whole, I used to doodle a lot, and the word toxic just always, like, stuck with me, and then I was like, "Yo, why don't I just make that my name? That's, like, super cool." And, yeah, that's kinda just where I got it from and kept it. It's just something that popped in my head one day and just it kinda, like, happened naturally. It wasn't like, "I need to think of, like, a rap name, da 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 da." It was like, "Oh, this word's really cool. It kinda fits, like, my aesthetic and what I'm
Yeah.
doing." So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And adding like the zero instead of like the O and all that too. So it's kind of like an interesting style and all that. So
Yeah, yeah, like, it used to be just toxic, and then no one was able to find me on streaming platforms. So then I was like, "Hey, maybe I'll just add, like, a 0, because even, like, the numbers as letters, like, Save Me that I have is, like, it's spelled, like, S4V3M3, and, like, it's kinda reminds me of, like, like, an Xbox gamer tag, like Modern
yeah.
Warfare 2, like,
Yeah.
my old one was, like, smoke screen, like, and I had, like, a bunch of 4s and 3s and stuff, so I just kinda, like that aesthetic of, like, having, like, numbers and stuff like that. It's like code, you know what I mean?
For sure, man.
Yeah.
And to speak more on like your creative process, like with music and all that. So what's it like, when making music, and like what would like a day in the studio be like for you?
So making music is I'm like such a perfectionist. Like I'm not one of those guys who goes to the studio and just like, bangs out 4 songs. Like I really like to I go out in nature, smoke some weed, I'll like write something for a bit. And then when I go to the studio, I already have like if I just record at my house, but when I used to go to the studio, I used to kind of like have everything, okay, this harmony's going here, this ad lib's going here. It's very calculated. So when I'd go, it was bang, 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 bang. And just like what I do is when I record, like I do like multiple takes and then I like comp it together to make like the perfect sort of take. So yeah, like now like I just like sort of sit there vibe. Sometimes I do a lot more like freestyling, like sort of just like, a lot of the time I start off like with a beat. I'm like, oh, I'm feeling this, and then I like throw it in Pro Tools or like Logic, and then I start like humming a melody, and I'm like, like, and I'll hum out like the like the melody that I like, and then I'll slowly mumble into words, and then I'll have like the words, and then I'll write it down, and it turns into like a song. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, yeah.
And would you say it was like kind of similar to that with some of your tracks, like Figure It Out, like Too Rich, Midnight, I'm Not
Yeah.
Gone, and all that?
Yeah, like, Too Rich was definitely, like, in my apartment when I used to live on, like Kensington Market. I just recorded that, like, literally in our, like, living room. It was right before I think like Rolling Loud, so I just kind of had that like cool vibe going on, and then like Figure It Out I did. That was my first song back after, I went through that whole experience where, like, I lost all my money, like, like, my body was all, like, fucked, and, like, I was, like, trapped in, like, that bad apartment, so I had to, like it was kinda like a storytelling, sorta how I figured stuff out, and, like, I was just, like, honestly, like, I was just, like, a mess, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was drinking a lot, like, doing a lot of bad things, like, I wasn't really, like I gained a lot of weight, like, you know what I mean? I was just in a really bad place, so that song kinda, like, was at the tail end of that experience and kinda, like, kinda symbolizes that, so that's why that song is really special to me, especially the verse. The verse is really, like, me just kinda spinning like, talking about sort of, like, how all that stuff, like, went down. Yeah.
Oh, sure. And I mean, like, even with like a lot of the stuff too, like, I feel like it has like a lot of like relatability too, because there are like people who go through like different like phases and like different issues like going on in your life. So, like, with like the people around you, or like the listeners that tapped in like to some of your stuff, like, have they ever like reached out to you saying that your music like impacted them like in some way, shape, or form and all that?
Yeah, especially with the Figure It Out like, this track, I'm really getting a, really good sort of response so far on it. I think people are saying like, "Yo, this is like just like a beautiful song." You know what I mean? It's just kind of like if you just feel like when you listen, it's literally just me, just like kind of just pouring like my whole heart out on that track. So I think people can feel that and like resonate with it because like you know what I mean. Like a lot of these days, like everyone wants to make like the coolest song or be like the cool guy, but
Yeah.
it's like we're human, like, we're not always gonna be cool, man, not everything's always great, that's just, like, a lie, to be honest, so
Yeah.
just showing that, like, that dark side, like, we all have that, we all have, like, dark moments, we all have dark times, but it's, like, how you bounce back, and no matter, like, where you are, like, how low you get, like, you can always come back, like, that's was me, I felt like I was sort of, like, almost done, like, you know what I mean? I didn't make music for, like, a long time, like, like I said, couldn't fix my laptop, but I really wanted to, like, bounce back, and I did, like, it was, like, really tough, but, like, if it's in your head and you can think it and you can achieve it, like, just start off, like, just by making goals and, don't think, like, "Oh, I'm gonna open or I'm gonna do this mad festival." That's why, like, with the show that I just threw, I'm like, "Yo, like, I just wanna, like, throw a show." You know what I mean? So I just it
Yeah.
was like a vision that was in my head, and I just sorta made that happen.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll get back more into like later on and all that too. But
Yeah.
you actually managed to like be in a group of like Kaido and like Siah Hendrix and all that too. Like, I think you formed like a rap group and all that. And how did you manage to meet those two? And like, tell me more about like the friendship and like working relationship with them, and even making music with them in a sense.
Yeah, like, I met them in college, we, like, lived together, we had, like, some really fun times in our house on Thurman, the place was kind of, like we never utilized the space, like, properly because it was a really nice house, but we just we went to school together, we met in college, and we'd always go to the studios and cook up and hang out and all that kinda stuff. So yeah, no, it's good, like, we have a lot of tracks that we have in the vault that I think, definitely need to see the light of day, so I think, we're gonna be starting to, like, put those out there, like, very soon, yeah.
For sure. And do you feel like there might be like a group project coming up with you guys and all that?
We
Or
definitely have enough songs, to, like, come out with a project, but I think it'd be better if we drop them as sort of singles just because that's kinda, like, the market right now, but, yeah, we definitely have, like, enough songs, like an EP or something like
For
that,
sure,
yeah.
man. And being a part of like the whole like Toronto like underground scene and all that too, like, how do you even like feel about like that state like right now? I mean, with like First Class Fest like taking over with a lot of shows and all that, like DieselCon that just happened like this year, and like with
Mhm.
some of the other stuff coming up, and then like Vampires like Prom with like Trey Gold and like Lovsky and all that, and like even with like Social Outcasts and all that.
Yeah, no, I think the underground scene is really dope, I think, it's kinda getting back to where it was pre-COVID, because I remember pre-COVID, it was, like, super, super jumping. I wasn't in living in Toronto at the time, I was still in college, but it was really bumping. I think now, there's a lot of stuff going on, and there's a lot of like, everyone's pretty chill, like, for the most part, like, artists and stuff, like, I always keep good energy. So a lot of the people that I interact with and stuff, like, I always try to support them, even if I can't, like, make it to their shows, I'll still, like, cop a ticket or something like
For
that, you know what
sure.
I mean?
No, for sure. And like, just like even like seeing like a lot of like people like pull through and all that. I mean, there's like a lot of people that do definitely like support it, like Autumn and all that, Young Fazo, and like
Mhm.
even like some of those like young cats too and all that. So I do see like it's more like tapped in than like any other scene that I've seen so far, like in Toronto and all that.
It's very interesting what's popular in Toronto right now because, like, I have a buddy, shout out to my boy, Moss Boy Mace. He lived in New York for a while, and like hearing the music that he made while he was in New York is like such a different sound what's going on. And even when we went to a show, he's like, "Oh, so this is like the sound that's popping." It's really like that synthy rage sort of stuff, that sort of like party, sort of like I don't know, almost like yeet sort of stuff is kind of like really popular, especially here in Toronto. That's kind of like what a lot of those like that opium sound or whatever. You know what I mean?
True.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
lot of that. I think there's a lot of good music from good artists that I like. They know who they are that make good stuff. But there's also a lot of like just like how it is with like, anything. There's a lot of copycats, I think. And I think that I'm excited to see a lot of people kind of grow more into their own sound. I'm starting to already kind of see that with a lot of artists that I know. They're kind of like going away from that and exploring. So I think yeah, I think once the Toronto scene like it starts like breaking out and becoming more diverse, I think that's what I'm really excited for. I think we're gonna see that in the next couple years,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, for
Cause
sure.
like we kind of had that era of like emotional sort of like music that was really popular, and then it just went to like straight like lit, like like that kind of music. And I think we're kind of circling back more into that sort of like meaningful sort of emotional sort of music for sure. Like
Yeah.
even like with like like Post Malone, like his new his sound doesn't really sound the same as like the stuff he was making like a couple years ago. It's kind of more in like a different direction. But I think that's also just like the people maturing, right? When you're young, you kind of make these like
Yeah.
really sick parties tracks, but as everyone sort of maturing
Yeah.
and gets older, kind of has like more of a mature sound. That's how I feel with Figure It Out. It's kind of like more of a mature sort of sound that I kind of like,
Yeah.
made.
To speak like even with the whole like copycat situation, like it's like something unrelated to, but
Yeah.
there's like this rapper like by the name of like Ian and all that too, who just dropped like a mixtape called like Valedictorian and all that too, and like
Mhm.
a lot of people like said that he kind of sounds like Ian and all that too and all that.
Yeah.
So I do notice like even with the underground too, like there are like a lot of people that try to emulate like different sounds, like the Cardi sound and all that, or the Yeet
Yeah.
sound and all that too. Do you ever feel like it's like kind of like played out like at the moment too and all that?
I do definitely feel like some of it's played out for sure, but I'm not gonna like be a hater. You know what I'm saying? Because like I'm never gonna like like hate on like young kids getting into music. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, as they grow, they'll find like their own sound. But I saw the same thing with like the Lil Peep era, bro. How many mans did you see with the half and half dyed
Yeah,
hair and stuff
yeah,
like that? You know what I mean? Like putting bare layers on like really slow, like bare vocal layers that with
yeah,
like lots of
yeah,
reverb on like
yeah,
really low sounding guitar
yeah,
tracks. You know what I mean? So it is with everything, like, how many, like, like, even, like, in terms of, like, Toronto, like, hood music, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, how many rappers in that, like, sorta kinda sound the same? They have that sort of, like, accent and they're rapping sort of similar things, so there's a lot of, sort of that in Toronto, I find, but I
for
think
sure.
there's a lot of talent, though, for sure, and I think, like, I'm never gonna hate on young kids making music, you know what I mean?
Sure. Nah, I know what you mean, man. And you also mentioned that you started like curating shows, like concerts and all that too. So how did you get into that, like, and performing at like many of like those like events and all that too?
So, literally, when I was so I'll kinda just do a rewind. 2023, I kinda my biggest issue of 2023 is I was doing a lot of things for other people, and I kinda lost myself. I was, like, really focused on I was working with a label for a bit, and I was, like, doing a lot of promoting for events, but I wasn't really focused on, like, music, and, like, obviously, like, we were doing like club events and stuff. So I was like, like drinking super heavy because there was like free alcohol and stuff like that. And then like, like after when I came home, there was like the social outcast and I focused a lot on like that. And I really like lost myself in a lot of this stuff. And then like, like that situation that I talked about happened. I can't really speak on it because like I'm going through like I'm taking like legal action on that kind of side. So um so then when that happened, like, there's no music. I was fucking depressed as shit, yo, like, not doing anything, and then, no one would wanna put me on shows because obviously, I guess I wasn't really, doing much, and then, like, when I was really trying back, I tried asking everyone, like, "Yo, can I be on this show? Can I do this?" Like, you know what I'm saying? So I didn't perform, like, from my show till, like, literally, like, November, bro, you know what I'm saying? So, like, it really, like I knew I was really good and I had a lot to showcase, and I know I can pull numbers for a show, but, like, no one really believed in it and seeing it. I was like, "What the fuck? Like, why isn't" So I stopped, like, complaining and was like, "Hey, like, why don't I just do that? I can throw my own fucking show." So, like, that show, I literally, like, shout out to 777, shout out to Obi, shout out to Jay, shout out to JR, shout out to Max, shout out to Addy, everyone on the team. Really, really, like, they let me use this space and, we partnered together in throwing the event, and, I planned everything, like, I put up 400 flyers downtown by myself. I got them printed, spent a couple hundred just on flyers and just went out like, for with a fucking tape gun and flyers and I hit every pole on Queen Street West. I hit every pole
Yeah.
on Kensington Market. I made sure everyone saw that flyer. I printed tickets. I was handing out free tickets to everyone just to make sure that it was lit and it turned out being something like so special and, like, honestly, like, fucking magical. Like, everyone who was there, like, knew the vibe and was, like, so it was kinda just like I was kinda like a fuck you to everyone who said, like, no to
Yeah.
me putting on a
Yeah.
show 'cause, like, now, like, I have, like, I have a free like, I'm doing a free show June 1st, over sort of by my area in, like, on Oakwood, like, Oakwood in Rogers area, and then, June 7th, shout out to Falu, I'm performing at her show, and then June 8th, I have the opportunity to open up for, Don Valley. I just gotta, like, hit my ticket sales and ticket marks, so I'm just really focused on that right now, getting ticket sales, pushing that. But yeah, like, it was definitely something that I see in my head. I, like, wrote everything down on, like, a piece of paper, what I needed, like, I booked like, I paid, like, my friend to do the sound. I'd cleaned up the place myself. Like, I did yeah, it was it was very stressful. I was right before the moment of the show, I was, like, dying of anxiety. I was, like, walking around and then,
Mm.
Obi's like, "Yo, dude, just, like, what do you have to do next?" But it was I'd do it all again. It was so worth it.
Yeah, because I know my guy animation performed and all that too, and like I know like it
Yeah.
was like a dope experience. Seeing like a lot of people perform and like even like with shows like these and all that too, because you don't really get to see like a lot of like shows like in Toronto nowadays too, because of just like the whole like like click culture and everything else too and all
Mhm.
that. But it's amazing to see like how other people like tapping in, like working with each other and all that too, and like fostering like these communities as well too and all that.
Yeah,
So
like, the reason I did my show is because like, I'm really sick of, like, the whole, like, stuck up, I'm too cool vibe, like, the cool kids club, like, all this shit, like, I really hate my biggest thing is when people have, like, egos, because like, I don't know, personally, I've been humbled in life so many times, so when I see that stuff, that's not what I don't fuck with that shit at all, to be honest, and, that's why on my show, like, there was no egos, like, it was straight just, like, good energy, just support and just creating, like, curating my own environment where I feel, like, comfortable in, where I make everyone feel comfortable in, where it's, like, positive. There's no, like, "Oh, like, I have more fucking listeners than this guy." Like, I fucking hate that kinda shit shit because it's, like, we've all had streams, like, numbers go up, down, like, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter. It's just about the positive vibe, you know what I mean?
I know what you mean, man. And as far as like like other stuff too and all that, like just to speak even more with like music and all that.
Mhm.
So like with the music that you've made now versus before, do you feel like there's like a significant like change for the better, like in terms of like what you saw at first versus like now and all that?
Yeah, I think, especially honestly going to college really elevated my sound because like I really know like the formula to make like a good song in terms of structure and all that kind of stuff and like where to add layers, kind of like where to add like ear candy. That's where engineering comes in. Like the reason I started engineering is because I'm like, dude, like fuck, I couldn't afford all the studio time. I'm like, why don't I just like pay for school and then I could just do it myself, you know what I mean? And even like make some side cash doing it. So that's kind of where it started. Cause shout out to Sydney at Wine Life Studios in Brampton. If you guys are looking for a studio, that's where I started like my studio journey. Honestly, he made my like no studio I've ever gone to is besides like myself has made my voice like sound that good. And like I would highly suggest if you're looking for a engineer, he's really good. Or even hit up Mac over at 777 Studios that we have. He's really good too. Everyone at 777 is like really really dope. But he sort of kind and he told me that he went to Fanshawe and I'm like, shit, I want to make my voice sound the way that, he makes it. And I remember the first time that like I got my voice like close to that, I was like blown away. But yeah, definitely that's where sort of it kind of started. Yeah.
Oh, true. And you also mentioned that you've done like engineering like as like a major like part like in your music career and all that, right?
Yeah, yeah. So engineering, like that's kind of how I get my own sound. Honestly, like the project that like made me like love sort of engineering was Love Is Rage 2 by Lil Uzi. I love that album. I love all the ear candy that they have when they do like the filtering on his voice, like at beginning of the songs or end of the songs. Like I just really love the reverbs, the delays, the way that sound, like that sound. I love that album and the sounds on that. Like what the fuck is that song? Better like that song, like what's it called?
The way life goes or something like that.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Like the mix, I love the way that song is mixed. Like the ending, how they do the filter on his voice. Like yeah, like I get a lot of inspiration. That's kind of like what started like my mixing sort of journey.
Oh, true. And as far as like an engineer and all that too, I don't know
Mhm.
if you have like any like pet peeves or anything that might like irk like an engineer like off and all that,
When I'm when I'm with myself or when I'm recording other people.
like recording other people and all that.
Recording other people, I would find a pet peeve is pulling up to the studio and you don't have any beats picked out, you don't really have anything. I know lots of people like to go there and like that's one thing I noticed about Toronto. Like when Toronto, like a lot of people book the studio time, it's kind of like just a big party. You know what I mean? But like when I like other places, like it's like I said, it's like me. Like I go there and I execute because I'm paying for it. You know what I'm saying? But I definitely like it. I prefer way more if like if an artist or rapper comes like prepared. And when they don't come prepared, I'm not I don't like, if you wanna pay me, to just go on YouTube to search up beats, like, sure, you know what I mean? Like, you could have saved your own money and come like, I wanna go there and, like, make, like, good music. I don't wanna just sit there and just be, like, like, bossed around and, like, I just yeah, so,
Yeah, no,
like, being especially being kind and respectful, you know what I'm saying? Because like,
yeah.
without the auto-tune, bro, like, I could leak your vocals, No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, I'm
Yeah, no,
kidding.
I know what you mean and all that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I've seen like there's like a TikTok before too where I think there were like people like in a studio like having fun and all that too, and like the producer engineers like are when are we getting to work and all that too and all that, and like I do see it like kind of being similar to like how people like in Toronto do it and all that sometimes and all that.
Yeah, it's kinda like I'm just, like, kinda I don't know, just maybe take it a little more serious, like, you're paying for it, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah, so but I've taken sort of a like, right now, I have, like, a lot, like, I'm really focused on, like, pushing tickets right now, so I've taken sort of it's I can only do so much, like, clothing, my own music,
sure.
so I engineer still, but not as much right now because like, I just have so much on the line that I need to focus on right now, yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean, man. And to even like speak more on like fashion and all that too, like do you have like any like influences that you have and all that too when it
Yeah,
comes to stuff?
honestly, just a lot of shit that I see on the internet, or even in person. A lot of trends that I sort of, see around. But I'd say like my biggest influence is like skateboarding. I love skate culture. I love like the chunky shoes. Like I love like the skateboarding pants. And just like, taking a twist on like kind of like, trends and kind of formulating into sort of my own thing. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I swear to God, I say this to this day. I was the first person to put chains on a hat.
Ah,
Like, yeah,
nice.
I swear I'll put I swear that on my grave. You know what I'm saying? I did that like way like years ago, like 2021. So yeah. Just wanted to do something different, man. Cause I remember like I would always want a clothing brand. Like, when I was in high school, I would like draw some, like, graffiti letters, and then I'd, like, digitalize it on, like, Pixlr, and then I'd go to, like, T-shirt time and, like, get it
Yeah.
made, you know what I mean? So I've always been interesting, it's just, like, getting the skills, you know what I'm saying? And slowly, if you look at the first shirts that I did, I literally just made it with my fucking, like, Cricut. I just, like, took a font and, like, I bought a Cricut, and then I heat pressed it, but, like, now I have Photoshop, and I'm getting more into it, so I'm just growing as that, like, I know I'm not, like, a perfect, like, clothing brand right now, I'm still learning, bro, and I'll always keep learning, you
Yeah,
know what I
man.
mean?
Because like when I'm seeing like some of the stuff and all that too, I see like Revenge and all that too, who
Oh,
did
yeah,
like
Revenge
the
is sick, yeah.
Tentacion ones. I've seen Zach FTP and all that, like fuck the
Yeah,
population. Like that's like kind of like a good
yeah,
brand that kind of did some stuff on that. I'd also say like some old stuff too, like City Morgue stuff and all that too, when they
yeah.
were working like with ASAP Bari and all that.
You see it more than I do. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's cool, yo,
So like
that's cool, it's always good to see what other
yeah.
people see, yeah.
And yeah, no, and because like even with certain designers too, like with street designers, I feel like they have like more of a creative like edge to like
Yeah,
towards like with what they do and all that too. And like I see that with certain people too, like even with the LA culture and all that with
yeah,
like Blasey and all that, who does like the
yeah,
more like, the houseware type styles and all that too, with unique logos here and there and all that. You see that with like Desto Dub, but with off a lot of like cough syrup and all that too, just trademarking off like one logo or like one
yeah.
catchphrase and like using like a certain stuff from there and all that. There's like a Toronto-based one that I actually rock with, which is called like Ugly World, like Worldwide and all that too. And
Hmm,
they focus like more on like balaclavas and all that too, and like
okay.
kind of having like unique color waves and styles like that
Yeah,
too, and all that. Just like even with the hoodies too, and like
yeah,
I mean even like some New York stuff and all that too. Like they kind of like play with some like logos like here and there too with the baggy jeans and all that,
yeah,
with like the chains, all that type of stuff too. So yeah,
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 yeah, even I take a lot of inspiration from, like, Trip, if you know Trip, like, the brand Trip in New York City. Yeah, they're really cool, but yeah, like you said, like, that whole sort of like, scene is definitely where I kinda cultivated, my fashion from, even, like, like skateboarding, like, if you look at, like, brands like Thrasher, Creature, World Industries, I worked at Zumiez for, like, time, so I had a lot of time, like, dealing with merchandise, like, I know that's a shitty fold right now, but I can fold a t-shirt really
no,
so when
sure,
I
sure.
have a I have a desk and it's set out, like, I fold my stuff nicely, so I have a that's where I kinda got a lot of experience in terms of, like, like, seeing a lot of merchandise and handling it and all that kinda stuff, yeah. I worked there for all through college, yeah. It was lit. Zoomies was lit. Shout out to Zoomies, yo.
Yeah, and I guess, like, you see, like, like, the unique, like, brands that they kinda, like, bring out and all that too, and, like, just with the styles as well too, so,
Thank you, yo. I appreciate that,
yeah,
yeah.
man. And, to even speak more on, like, the Toronto Canadian, like, music scene now right now,
Mhm.
how do you feel about it at the moment, and do you feel that there should be some changes on where the direction the scene should go to?
Yeah, like I said, I think once it starts developing more, I think there's a lot of cool stuff going on right now. I think it's just once it starts just growing into something bigger. And one thing that we need to do in Toronto is supporting other people in Toronto. Like I think even Tory Lane said like, "Yo, I got no love." When I was in Toronto, then I went to America, and then everything I did in America was 10 times bigger. It looked 10 times bigger in Toronto. When I came back to Toronto, I was like, oh my God. So you know what I mean? I do think there's a lot more like, sort of, appreciation and community going forward now that I like. I like that feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it started to improve, like, during the Kendrick and Drake beef and all that too, where like a lot of people are like seeing the whole like view of like how Americans are treating like Canadians and all that too, and like,
Yeah.
it's like now we got to stand up, fight like for whatever we can do and all that,
Dude,
and
yeah, like I want our reputation to change, man. Like with this whole like, people how are viewing Canadians right now, I'm like frustrated. I'm like, dude, I swear we're not like that. We're not pussies, man.
yeah,
Like because of all like, our leader and all that kind of stuff is
yeah,
kind of making us look like a clown and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so it is, we used to be like the cool night, like everyone used to be like, oh, Canadians are so cool, they're super nice, but now it's like, yo, they're fucking
yeah.
the narrative has shifted, so I want the narrative to shift back because, like, really chill, cool people,
I
yeah.
think it changed like after the whole like convoy situation too and all that because
Oh,
I
yeah.
feel like when like a lot of stuff happened with the whole like COVID protests and like the whole convoy thing,
Yeah.
like some people like tend to view like, hey, like, the Canadians like seeing like those people that are trying to stand up, like, yeah, like, stay out of it and all that too and all that, like that's not our war, like that's not this and all that, like
Yeah.
just like follow that. And then I think everyone just started to become more like, passive aggressive and all that too, like
Yeah.
kinda more, like, hands off, like, in certain situations too, so
Yeah, I
I
think oh, what were you gonna say?
uh,
Sorry?
no, that was just kinda, like,
Yeah.
how, like, everything, like, changed from, like, the view of Canadians and all that too.
Yeah, yeah, like, honestly, like, that is when I started noticing a shift, like, where everyone was kinda like, "Mm, maybe this kinda all is bullshit," you know what I mean? Like, I kinda always, was on the spectrum of, like, "What the fuck are we doing this for, like, a cold?" You know what I mean? But yeah, no, like, literally and, like, as much people wanna talk and say, like, "Fuck them," like, everything dropped right after that, like, that's when things opened up again. So, like, yeah, just the government's overreaction. Like I get it was like a stressful time and like when no one sort of knew, but I remember like literally like being locked up and I'm watching UFC in Florida and it's a packed stadium. I'm like, what the fuck are we doing, yo?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I was like, okay, like, you know what I mean? So I think that's where it went sort of downhill, like, and especially with all our censorship and stuff like that. It's like, dude, like, you know what I mean? Like this is like we're supposed to be a free country, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, I really wanna, us to sort of go in more that direction than where
Yeah.
we're headed,
I
yeah.
mean, it's not too late for, like, the election that might be coming, I think, what, like, next year or so and all that too,
Yeah,
so vote matters and all that too, whether it's, like, the Conservatives or NDP or whatever and all that too,
yeah.
anything can happen to replace Trudeau.
Dude, I've never seen anyone in my life so politically hated. Even people who are, like, super, super, super far left are starting to be like, "Yeah, like, we don't like Justin Trudeau," because like, dude, like rent, man. Like when I first moved to Toronto, like I could like my, like I was like my 2-bedroom apartment downtown Spadina, like me and my boy were paying 875 a piece, bro. And like I remember when we were leaving, I'm like, yeah, she's about to double this to 1500. I don't know how it's just gotten so out of control here in Toronto. And that's like it's also hard being an artist out here in Toronto because it's like,
Yeah.
you like your the music industry is very, I would say unrewarding because you don't get money from it, until like you've actually sort of made it, right? Like don't like your clothing for me, thank God, like this is how I can make money and like doing studio. But like, like a lot of shows you perform for free. You kind of have to go there and just push your brand. So to be able to do that, and then most people have to like work at, jobs
Yeah,
and
yeah.
shit. And it's like, bro, your rent, like $2,000 for rent, bro. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm
And then
saying,
groceries, which like
dude?
spiked up like a lot and
I
all that too,
know.
food bags, shorting like down and all that too. And then I mean, even like the cost of like entertainment, like all that type of stuff too, like it's increasing by the time and all that.
Yeah.
So like the only thing that you can like really do is just maybe pay like a certain like rent and all that. Like if you're like living with like five, like six other
Dude,
people and all
yeah,
that.
it's like
Yeah.
we're gonna have roommates till like our 30s, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, until like, that's why like I think for me personally, like I'm gonna stay in the city, but once I start like entering like my 30s, I'll probably like get like leave the city and kind of have a more because it's just it's getting ridiculous and it's also like just sad, bro. Like seeing like so many homeless people and like they're trying to decriminalize drugs, which is like we thought that stuff would work, but it's like look at Vancouver and how messed up that
Yeah,
situation is
exactly,
right
man.
now.
Yeah.
So it's like Toronto's turning into just like we're just kind of enabling all these problems and we're not fixing it. And all the politicians are pocketing the money and sending it off to different countries and wars and washing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
no,
it's
I know
like
what you mean, man.
nothing's really getting fixed. So it is sad because it's like not even like it's not even just Toronto, it's everywhere you go. Like Belleville has a state of emergency from all the homeless people. Like, dude, Hamilton, like Hamilton, bro, like the whole city hall lawn is just like homeless people. It's
And
like,
like London too and all that, like those spots
yeah.
too. Yeah.
When I was like in London, I remember during like the pandemic, like I would go outside at nighttime. I was like in their world. It was like only them because everything was closed, right? That's when it started like getting
Yeah.
bad. So you can't even blame some of these people because like someone said this and it's really good. It's like, well, none of us are a couple good months away from being like rich, but we're all a couple bad months away from being homeless. So I think once we take that, like, what happens if you lose your job and you can't find a job and then like, your rent's so expensive, then you get evicted. Like the landlords out here are running a finesse, man. Like when I was
Yeah.
in London, it was student, it was super chill. It was like, oh, cool, come in. But now it's like credit score, this, all this kind of stuff. And it's just insane, man.
All that type of stuff, yeah, and like it takes like a toll, like on like mental health and all that type of stuff too, and all that.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people are committing like suicide like every other time and all that too. Like
Yeah.
people are going to therapy, all that type of stuff too. So for you, like, how do you even like deal with your mental health as a person in your position and with everything like going on in your life and all that? Do you ever feel like it's like kind of like overwhelming and all that?
Yeah, like, honestly, I'll be straight up, like, I'm definitely in therapy, bro, that shit helps, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not afraid to admit that because, like, like, it does help, you know what I'm saying? So but music is really good for me, and, having, like, really good friends around you, not people who are gonna, like, snake you and all that kinda stuff, and I've been through a lot of that in sort of the music scene. Like, the first time I'll tell a story. The first time when I first moved to Toronto, I had this guy, he's a fucking piece of shit scammer, and he's like, "Yo, come to Toronto, like, I'll manage you, I'll get a place for you," all this kinda stuff, so then I go, and he gets this place, and it's, like, this commercial unit in, like, Kennedy and Finch, so I was staying there. Dude, my clothes are in, like, a filing cabinet, I'm staying there, I'm like, "Yo, what the fuck is going on with this shit?" He was, like, crazy, and then he finessed these 2 artists from the West Coast to fly out here, made them pay 6 grand a pop to come record 2 projects, and then they came and recorded, and they came, and, like, at the time, I didn't even have my Apollo interface, I was still rocking my SSL, so they came, and like, "What the fuck?" It's like a bedroom setup, it's not like when he's telling them it was a studio, so I recorded, like, 2 tracks for them, or 2 albums in, like, 3 days for them, and I never got paid, they paid 6 grand, wasted their money, and yeah, it was just a shit show, and then I just, like, left, and I'm like, "Wow," like, there's really, like, lots of fucking snakes out here, yo, so just be careful, any advice that I have to, like, artists up and coming is, you don't need a manager. You don't need someone to do that. Like, because if that fucks up and that's gone, then how do you stand on your own 2 feet? You know what I mean? So I was like, like, oh, I can't wait to get like a manager. Like, it was my man. Like, oh, no, fuck that shit, bro. It's way cooler if you can do that shit yourself.
Yeah, nah, I
Yeah.
definitely agree too. I feel like the only time that you do want to get like a manager too is like if things like really like start to like blow up, like in
Yeah.
a sense doing all that.
It's like when you're at a point where you literally can't manage and you're so busy, you have so much shit to do, and like, you're dealing with all these like finances and stuff like that, then like, yeah, then get it, having a manager is good. But like, imagine like you know how to book and throw your own shows. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like if you're an artist and you want to perform, get like 3 of your friends together, each pitch $100 and throw a fucking show and do that every month. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, nah, likewise, man. Nah, I
Yeah.
definitely agree too on all that. And with a lot of people like that want to like tap in with like artists or like tap in with like creatives too. Like usually, like I'd have like a playlist for them to for like people who want to like check out like certain artists and stuff like that too and all that. And to have like free songs like on there and all that from your catalog. like what would be like those free songs that you would like put like on the playlist that you would recommend to people who wanna like find out about you more for the first time or who haven't like heard about you and all that?
Yeah, so from my catalog right now that's out, I would say the three songs that I'd have would probably be like "Figure It Out" that I just dropped, probably "Too Rich," and my a song I have called "I'm Not Gone." It's another acoustic track. I'd say those top three, but I have a lot of cool stuff that's gonna be coming out too because I didn't, like I said, 2023 is doing all that. I didn't really drop any music, so I have all these songs. So a lot of the new songs that I have coming out are gonna kind of be more geared towards my sound. Yeah,
Ah, for sure. And
yeah.
I know we already talked about like the stuff that you already have going on, like with
Mhm.
the fashion line and all that, with the show performances too, and all that, and then also with the project too. But do you have anything else that you'd like to share, like and all that?
Yeah, man. So I'm definitely gonna be throwing the next Save Me show. So I'm looking for new artists for that. We're gonna be looking for like a better, bigger venue. So I'm gonna be doing those hopefully more monthly and just I'm gonna be dropping music videos. Like I'm gonna be filming a music video for Figure It Out within the next 2 weeks. So I'm gonna be having lots of music videos, lots of content. I filmed a lot of just sort of like visualizer content. So just a lot of content this year. I'm really trying to step up on my content game, not just like make a post and be like out now and that's sort of it because that stuff doesn't really work. So just really for me, you'll be seeing a lot more content from me. Yeah,
Ah,
for
for sure,
sure.
man. And they could like follow you like on like IG, Twitter, and all that.
Yeah, yeah. So T0XXIC 433 on Instagram and then only toxic on TikTok, but just with the zero. I'm gonna change it. It used to be only toxic. I gotta change all that, but I'm gonna do that. But yeah, just search up T0XXIC and you'll find me on like anything. Yeah.
Ah, true,
Yeah,
sure,
yeah.
man. And Talks. It's
Dude,
like a pleasure,
yeah.
like having you on,
Yeah,
man, and all
yeah.
that
Thank you, man.
to like share your story and all that, to share your
Yeah.
journey and like everything else too, and all that. We'll definitely like have you back on, like,
Yeah.
and it's like amazing to see and all that with the fashion, with the engineering, with everything like that too. Like, keep on grinding, man. Like
Thank you,
regardless,
man.
So
I appreciate that. I'm never gonna stop grinding. I would love to come on for more podcasts. Thank you again for reaching out, remembering me. Especially through like even couple years and believing me and having me on here. This is super cool, and I'm super excited to see this come out. And shout out to everyone. And yeah, thank you.
yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah.
And this is Josh, also known as Yashu, episode 88 of the TLOY Talks podcast. You can get this on all platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Buzzsprout, much more. Check out Toxic with like a lot of the music, with the shows coming up and all that, like even with the merch and all that too. Like it's definitely like amazing to see and all that, and to check out like everyone else too, like that contributed like in a way and all that, like with this podcast, with everything else too and all that, and yeah, like definitely share more as soon as possible as well too, and this is episode 88 of TLOY Talks. Josh, also known as Yashu with Toxic, signing off.